Hi, welcome to my video about how to clean a sea strainer on board a ship. Throughout this video, we will go over the process of isolating a sea strainer, taking out the sea strainer, cleaning it, and returning it back in service. This was done on the USNS Richard E. Byrd. Once the differential pressure gauge on the sea strainer reads 5 psi or higher, it is time to clean your sea strainer. This means your sea strainer may be fouled up. The first step to cleaning your sea strainer is to switch to your offline sea chest and sea strainer and isolate the sea strainer that needs cleaning. To do so, open the motor operated valve at the inlet of your offline sea strainer, as well as the manual outlet valve on your sea strainer. It should be verified locally that the motor operated valve is open. The motor operated valve is to be open through the MCCS operating system. Then close your seawater inlet motor operated valve and manual outlet valve for the sea strainer that needs to be cleaned. Verify locally that both valves are closed. These are the only valves that are isolating the sea strainer from the rest of the system and from the seawater outside the ship. Then you will disconnect your differential pressure gauge wires from the sea strainer. This will prevent any damage to the wiring and electronics to this gauge. Open the vent valve at the top of the sea strainer. Some water will initially flow out, but it should stop soon after. To ensure that no water is leaking by either of the isolation valves, no water should be leaking out of the vent after. Disconnect the vent line at the top of the sea strainer while keeping open the vent. This will prevent the vent line from getting in your way. Then, open the drain at the bottom of the sea strainer, allowing for all the water in the sea strainer to drain out. Once the sea strainer is fully drained, loosen the bolts holding the casing down in a star pattern using an impact gun. Do not take the bolts off yet. Once all the bolts are loosened, ensure there is no pressure pushing up the casing or any seawater leaking out of the casing. Once it is ensured there is no pressure on the lid of the casing and no water is leaking by, you may take off all the bolts holding the casing lid down. Attach a chain fall to the pad eye that is directly over the sea strainer lid, and then attach it to the sea strainer lid. Once this is done, you may start hoisting up the sea strainer lid. Lift the sea strainer lid all the way up until it can be secured to the nearest railing. Properly secure it to the nearest railing so that it will not close while working on the sea strainer. Then attach a chain fall to the sea strainer, lifting it out of its casing all the way until a wooden board can be placed underneath it. Allow the sea strainer to sit on the wooden board. Have a pressure washer and face shield nearby in order to clean the sea strainer. Push all the debris on the sides of the sea strainer down to the bottom of the sea strainer. Scoop up all the debris that has accumulated at the bottom of the sea strainer into a nearby bucket. If any of the debris was not able to be taken off with the pressure washer, use clean rags and clean off the debris by hand. Once the sea strainer is clean of debris, it may be lowered back into place using the chain fall. Do this slowly, being careful that it does not get caught up on anything inside the casing. Remove the O-ring from the seat of the lid. Clean the seat of the lid and the lid using rags. Have the correct replacement O-ring nearby for use and lubricate it with silicone lubricant. Place the O-ring back into its groove on the seat for the lid. Untie the lid from the nearby railing and place the chain fall onto it. Lower the lid back onto the casing. Be sure to lower the lid carefully and slowly, making sure there are no extremities under the lid. Place the bolts back onto the lid. In a star pattern, tighten the bolts with the impact gun halfway at a time. Once all the bolts have been tightened halfway, fully tighten down each bolt in a star pattern. Then, reconnect the differential pressure gauge and the vent line to the strainer. Close the drain valve. Next, open the seawater inlet motor operated valve to the sea strainer and open the vent at the top of the sea strainer. Once the seawater starts to come out, close the vent. This gets rid of any air left in the sea strainer. To put the sea strainer back online, open the manual valve at the outlet of the sea strainer. The sea chest and newly cleaned sea strainer are now online and providing seawater to the system. To take the other sea chest and sea strainer offline, close the valve on the inlet side of the sea strainer and the outlet side of the sea strainer. This will take it offline. Step is to clean the surrounding area of the sea strainer using a pressure washer and rags to remove any debris from the area of the sea strainer. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you learned something today.